I have a fear that I can't seem to kick in terms of the way the economy is going, the collapse of the dollar, the way the stock market's going, and it seems like a pretty big thing that for some reason it affects me.
For some reason?
For some reason.
But you're creating the reason. It comes from a belief that you have. Remember that all emotions stem from beliefs. You can't feel something without believing something to be true first.
It's hard for me to believe that following your highest joy will, if the dollar collapsed and the economy collapsed,
yes,
it's hard for me to believe that following my highest joy would still get me through that even.
All right. Well, thank you for being honest. That's where it starts. Now, obviously you don't prefer that belief, yes?
Correct.
Incorrect. If you didn't prefer it for some reason, you wouldn't hold on to it. So what you have to do is find out why you're defining that belief as something you prefer over the alternative. Because we know you say you prefer to believe something else, but as long as you're believing what you're believing, obviously you've attached the kind of belief to it that makes it appear to be the preferential belief, or you would believe something else, because none of you, for a split second, believe anything you don't prefer to believe. This is how the motivational mechanism works in you. You all have the same mechanism. You will always move in the direction of what you define to be in your best interest. You will always move away from what you define to not be in your best interest as a belief. So if you hold on to something you say you don't prefer, but you hold on to it, you keep choosing it, you keep choosing to buy into it, somewhere there's another belief attached to that one that for some reason makes it seem to be the thing you're motivated to keep choosing. You have to find out what that definition is that you've attached to it that makes it seem the more likely, the more beneficial choice than what you say you want but aren't choosing. So let's explore that.
Okay.
Sometimes, just to give you a head start, just to give you an example of how these things generally occur in the psychology of many Earth humans, is that even though they know they prefer something, they are afraid to move in that direction because they have been taught to have a greater fear of the unknown. And so even though they don't prefer what they keep choosing, it's familiar. And to them, they define familiar as better than, more beneficial than unknown. So as long as you have that definition attached in that way, you will never go toward what you don't know and always hold on to what you do know, as painful as it might be. Once you know you have done that, once you can find out what that definition is you've attached to the unknown, then you will identify it, you will see it has nothing to do with you, because any negative belief, every negative belief that you discover, that you identify, once you identify it, once you bring it from unconscious into conscious recognition, will always, negative belief will always appear nonsensical and illogical because it doesn't fit with your natural vibration. That's why it's so important to identify beliefs, because once you identify it, once you bring it into the light, you will see it doesn't belong to you, that it came from your parents, it came from your family, it came from your society, it came from your friends, and you bought into it. But it isn't yours. Holding on to something that isn't yours is called theft. Don't be a belief thief. Let go of what isn't yours. But the only way to know it isn't yours is to identify what it is, so that you will see it doesn't belong to you. And once you know it doesn't belong to you, you'll drop it. You understand?
I do.
Is this helping?
It actually brings up an awareness.
Oh, thank you. And what is that awareness?
Imagining the destruction of the economy would, on some level, be more comfortable to me than imagining the unknown of what would be sort of the perfection beyond that.
Well, there you go. Now, understand that what you call your economy is arbitrarily based anyway, isn't it?
Sure.
Isn't it just by your agreement?
Sure.
That it works at all? Isn't it just an imaginary game? This is worth that. Okay. Didn't it used to be rocks and bones and stones and feathers and beads and all sorts of things? Now it's coin and paper, so it's just arbitrary. It's just what you agree to. A more solid economy would be basing it on the people themselves, their skills and abilities, and what they have to contribute to society. You'll get there. But the point is you don't have to worry about the collapse of the old system, because that's what needs to happen if you're going to have new systems. The trick is to create the new systems now so they will be in place when the old ones crumble of their own dead weight, because they no longer serve you. So seeing them start to break up and dissolve is actually cause for celebration, because it means you're on the verge of allowing yourself to know that there are new systems you can implement. But the point is, take action and make those new systems. Invent them, create them. Be creative, be active, take action for its own sake. Again, not as a means to an end. For its own sake, because it excites you to do so. If it excites someone to invent, to create, to talk about, to share ideas of new economic systems just because that's what excites them, then that's what's going to create the new systems, and the synchronicity will take care of the timing. The new systems, when you have exciting people doing things because they're excited about it, just because they're excited about it, the timing will take place within the synchronicity automatically, and the new systems will be where they need to be, when they need to be there, when the old systems no longer serve you. That's how it works. It's automatic. It already works. You don't have to make it work. Just let it work. By going with the flow of it. By being who you really are. In a sense, by dragging your heels and not allowing yourself to believe that you will be supported in another way, just as you have been supported by this arbitrary idea. If you can be supported in your life by such an arbitrary, imaginary idea, why can't you be supported by another one that's actually even more concrete, because it's based on you, the true you, instead of the arbitrary one, instead of the arbitrary definition? Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely.
Is this sinking in?
Yes, definitely.
You are supported all the time by creation anyway. If you weren't, you wouldn't exist. Why not simply allow yourself to know that whatever you decide to be supported, in whatever way you prefer to be supported, you'll be supported that way? Creation, in that sense, does not make that decision for you. It supports you in whatever way you say you believe you can be supported. So if you've been supported all this time, according to whatever belief systems you had at that time, by such an arbitrary, ephemeral, smoke and mirrors idea of economy, how can anything else be even more insubstantial?
Very good point.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Look through the illusion and understand that what you're shifting to is how to use the power of the illusion instead of succumbing to the illusion of power. You see the difference?
Mm-hmm.
Use the power of the illusion. Don't fall under the negative ego assumption of the illusion of power. Does that help?
Yes, definitely.
Do you understand that you are all totally abundant?
Yes.
That's your natural state. You are supported unconditionally, totally, every second. Again, if you weren't, you wouldn't exist. The idea is that there really is actually no such thing as lack in the way that you typically define it. So let's go back to that idea of definition. What you experience, when you create the experience called lack, what you're creating is an abundance of lack. So if you have an abundance of lack, why not have an abundance of something you prefer? Because it's all abundance, it's just different kinds of abundance. You are never not abundant, you just have an abundance of lack when you experience the idea you call lack. It's not actually a lack of abundance, it's an abundance of lack. Most of the things on your planet you have backwards. For example, seeing is believing. No, believing is seeing. You see?
Yes.
You believe?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.